but we're grateful for the technology that allows you to safely attend. We're thankful to the Jex family for allowing us to help with Tim's memorial, and for Tim's good friends who have made this possible. In particular, Tim's Coolidge has been wonderful and very helpful. Thank you very much. Our pianist today is Sister Nikki Anderson. Our opening song will be a special musical number by Alexa Stevens, accompanied by Nikki Anderson, Be Still My Soul, after which our opening prayer will be given by Brother Robert Groves.
Be still my soul, my heart is on thy side. With patience bear thy cross of grief or pain. Leave to thy God, to thy judgment provide. In every change, be faithful with remain. Be still my soul, thy best thy love, leave rest. Through godly ways to enjoy. Be still my soul, thy God, thy mind to guide the future as he has the best. My hope, my God, that is his loving shade. On the seas shall be praised at last. Be still my soul, the waves and winds still know his voice who what he tells you. Be still my soul, the heart is hasting on. When we shall be forever with the Lord. It is our grief and peace, my God. Sorrow for God, love's purest joys restored. Be still my soul, when change and tears are past. Was safe and blessed, we shall meet at last.
Father in heaven, we bow our heads and give thanks to thee for this beautiful day, for this beautiful chapel that we have to meet in to celebrate the life of Brother Tim Jex. We're grateful, Father, for our association with him. We ask thee to bless the Jex family, that they shall know peace and contentment and happiness. That someday they'll be able to meet again with Brother Jex and be a family together. Father, bless the speakers who will talk about this great man today. Watch over us all, we pray, and as we travel, we do so in safety. We say this in the name of thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Thank you for the wonderful music and for the prayer. Tim, Anastasia, and Nikita moved to Beaver Creek in 2011 as an Air Force family. Our church wards or congregations are divided geographically, and as such, they became members of the senior ward of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Over the years, we in the senior ward have come to know and to love the Jex family. As members, we're given callings or responsibilities at church. Tim will be best remembered as a Sunday school teacher. His deep knowledge of the gospel led to many wonderful lessons. He touched all of our lives and was a wonderful example of selfless service. He will be missed. At this time, we'll move to the eulogy, which will be given by Tim Skolich. After Tim, we'll hear from Jeff Hess, who's a friend of Tim. After Jeff, we'll hear from Brian Hayes, who will be remotely brought in. He's in Maryland. He's also a friend of Tim's. And then finally, Mike Stevens will be our concluding speaker. We'll go till then.
Thank you, Bishop. That was absolutely beautiful. The music, that was just incredible. There's no opening that I could offer that would top that, so I'm just going to move on to telling you a little bit about why I'm here to give testament to the life of a man that I have the deep and utmost respect for, who grew to be a friend and a mentor, an example, somebody that is worthy for all of us to look up to by the way he chose to lead his life. My relationship with Tim started in 2011 when I showed up in an organization that he was already at the base, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, and had the opportunity to come and work for him directly as the commander of this organization. I was his deputy. And it turned out that we also ended up being neighbors. So the family lived right around the corner from the house that my family was in the neighborhood of Hunter's Ridge. And so, you know, the friendship and the camaraderie we had at work turned into friendship and camaraderie outside of work as well. Saw each other around the neighborhood a lot. Thank you for those who are in attendance here, and thank you for those who are participating by the broadcast. We have interesting wiring through the internet to get this all to work, but it is working. And I have to particularly recognize Colonel Retired Alden Hilton, a colleague and friend of Tim Jex as well, and a friend of mine, who is in another ward south of here, who is particularly proficient at doing this. So he's got this all set up and linked together, and we are not only broadcasting on Zoom, but also live on YouTube. So thank you to him. This was a cruel turn in life for a man who was so full of life. And he had taken time to just enjoy being retired from his career for so long and commit to service through the church and to be there for his friends. And what a shock. So my condolences go to the family. This was particularly difficult to have that news just a few short months ago. Anastasia, his daughter Kristen, his son Nikita, his mother, his sister Janet, Hat, and her husband Morgan, brother Doug, his wife Linda. On the feed today also though, I'd like to recognize Janet Worth, another colleague. We work very closely together with Tim in the front office. She's here today. The bishop mentioned that Brian Hayes, another colleague, will be joining us by Zoom. But also watching today, because they have such great respect and feel the sense of loss, we have retired Surgeons General from the United States Air Force, a number of residents in aerospace medicine that were colleagues of Tim very early on in his medical career in the Air Force, members of the current human performance wing at the base, senior officers, non-commissioned officers, a number of civilian colleagues, of course, the church family, and other family and close friends. So my condolences, I think we share in this moment of grief, but we will also turn that into a message of uplifting this as well. Those of us who know Tim personally knew he was full of life and never, ever did anything that he committed to only halfway. And not just full of life, but I would say a life fully lived. His spiritual life, his family life, his professional life, and his friendships. He did have a distinguished professional career. He gave 33 years of service to the nation, a word that is a great description of who he was as a person in service. He served as a flight surgeon, a command surgeon, multiple commander assignments around the world, literally, with special operators and fighter pilots, everything the Air Force has to offer in terms of our ability to defend the nation. And he deeply cared about each and every one of them, and taking care of our airmen. His uniform career was so successful, the medical service saw fit to promote him to a general officer rank. And that is a very, very small number that ever had the opportunity to serve in that capacity. And he was selected as the first commander of this thing called the Human Performance Wing that was newly created, which is where our paths, Janet's and Bryant's and his, cross. He was a servant leader. He worked tirelessly to build on the groundwork laid by the wing's first civilian leader, director, Tom Wells, to put that organization and mission fully on the map. Why? Because he cared deeply about the job he was there to do, is to turn that organization into something powerful for the Air Force and for the men and women who are serving. And one of the biggest challenges, and this is where you really start to get a true measure of who he was as a person, was we had an organization that was very diverse. They came together, I would call it a bit of a shotgun wedding. It wasn't the marriage that necessarily all three of those organizations wanted to have. And he was a unifier. He committed fully to that. He was a great judge of character in deciding who the leaders of that organization needed to be, and he handpicked that and mentored them along the way to be successful. He united people. He had a saying that he put in place first day: don't be mean. Don't be mean. Or said another way, just be nice, right? But his thing was don't be mean. The irony of all that was, and Janet will recall this, is he showed a video in his first commander's call, and with the message, don't be mean. And some of you may know about the trunk monkey. Apparently, you know this video, there's a driver in a car and he's acting out in traffic and he's being really ornery and a really rude driver to other people, and up pops the trunk lid and a monkey gets out with a crowbar and takes care of the driver for being mean. And I thought, well, that's a bit ironic. Don't be mean, and we have a trunk monkey as the example. You know, that was him. That was his sense of humor that came through in what he did. He started open houses to bring people together to be able to celebrate working together as friends and colleagues in that organization. That was something that was a first. In all my entire career, I've never seen that happen. But that's how he thought. We had a wing sports day, which taps into his competitive spirit. I'll talk about that in just a minute. He was also unflappable. You could throw almost anything at General Jex, and he would take it in stride. He would figure out what the right thing to do is. He would consult with his experts. He would make a decision when we move forward. And this was a time in 2011, 12, 13, there was a lot going on in our Air Force. And there were a lot of people at the very senior level, all the way up to a chief of staff, that looked to the organization that Tim was running for solutions, for answers. And as you might expect, there wasn't a lot of patience to be had with some of these problems. We had aircraft grounded because we had problems with the oxygen systems in those aircraft. We had other environmental things that were of concern. And they turned to Tim's organization. Why? Not because of the organization alone, because they trusted his judgment. They trusted his ability to solve the problem. And this is what, as somebody that worked with him closely, was a great mentoring point, to watch him in action. But while he was unflappable, he was also fiercely competitive. So if you wanted to get him pumped up, have any kind of competition, and you know this, right? The obvious stuff was when you walked in the office in March, and our front office, the wing headquarters, general officer's office, was plastered in butcher block paper with the NCAA Final Four brackets. Okay, and everybody was in, even a guy like me who really doesn't follow that too much. So I was pretty much eliminated early in the pool. But anyway, and we just had fun. He did that because it brought people together. Yeah, he was competitive, but there was an ulterior motive behind it, I'm sure. He played intramural basketball. He would sneak out of the office and go to one of the other buildings and play foosball with the guys. And when I say the guys, say the men and women of the organization, anybody. Rank was not important in those environments. It was all about bonding and camaraderie and being able to enjoy being together in that context and winning for him, right? No doubt about that. Ping pong was another one. That's going to come up probably again later on. We thought that was for the breakaway in the middle of the day. He would sneak away with Brian Hayes or his executive officer, Dale Harrell, and they would go play ping pong together. So much so this is a research laboratory. We're doing state-of-the-art research in acoustics, and we've got PhDs, world-class recognized scientists and engineers. But there was a break room that was apparently underused because it became the ping pong tournament room. He had a ping pong table brought in, and that's where he would disappear with Ryan in the middle of the day. He would take on any challengers, and you could always count on somebody other than Tim Jacks walking out of that room with their head hung low as a result of the competition. He always left them in the dust. This became a theme and a running joke, even to the point when he retired from active duty in 2016. We had a grudge match as part of the retirement ceremony. We brought a ping pong table in, and they played it live there, right for everyone. Makita pointed out that he would play his dad, and his dad was just a trick. You use the phrase "tricks up his sleeve," right? But what he found out later is he found Tim's special paddle. Apparently, this was in a special place, not discoverable by anyone else. It was only his paddle, and apparently, it's got some magic dust on it. Because Makita says his game is considerably improved now that he has the paddle. And if Google Maps had a pin put down for where the ping pong tables are across the country, I'm sure Tim Jacks would have been the first user of that. But our wing sports day took the cake, and again, is just full of life, fun, camaraderie, and competitive spirit came out. This was bringing the wing together. This is 1,000, almost 1,500 people, bringing them together for a picnic over the summer. Again, first for our organization. But he had some kind of a thing. It was almost an OCD thing about potato launchers. This is being able to fling a potato a long way. So he started a competition. And we have an organization with a lot of engineers in it, a lot of scientists, and of course, there's a lot of math to go into this. Tim's approach was a lot simpler. It turns out that surgical cord is not stretchy only for the OR, but it can be used to fling things quite a long distance. And so he engineered a device that would take a potato, put it in a little cup. You pull the surgical cords all the way back, stretch them out, and let go, and the potato would go flying. And this became a competition at the Wing Sports Day. The problem was just he wasn't an engineer. He's a great surgeon and a great leader, not so much an engineer. So the first attempt was a fairly rickety kind of structure on a metal frame, and it needed anchors. Well, since I didn't have any use other than to be an anchor, I got to sit on the ground and anchor the thing down. The problem was the trajectory of the potato. So when you pulled the thing back, it went whizzing past us out, and the first time the cup didn't really sit, turned around and came whizzing on right back. I thought, okay, so range safety officer out there wasn't one. But that simple device now for 4 years running became more and more complex until the final year that he was there doing that. Their garage became a monster shop and was an engineering production facility for a major structure that took a big pickup truck to move out to the sports field to actually set this flinging device up. And he would go around and scout all the other ideas out there and everything, and no matter what engineering solution people came up with, Tim's solution would always win. As a surgeon, that was pretty impressive. But those potatoes would fly. I think we clocked one at like 300 feet or something. It was ridiculous. In fact, the couple that was walking across the sidewalk on the other side of the lake took pause when they saw this thing flying because it was obvious it was going to go a long way. But Tim, to his good judgment, did pause while the woman with the baby carriage did. But he stacked the teams. And when it came to competition, he was always looking for the angles on that. But when it came to competition, there was one thing that Janet and I think that he did not win. In fact, I think he conceded because there's a lot to do in the wing, and Val carried very deeply. And it's like, okay, Janet, we're working hard, and we're spending a lot of hours in the office. And it's like, we're thinking, well, he must have conceded that role to us. And then we realized, no, he won again. He went home on time, and he didn't. So he always was in that food. He loved the outdoors. I'd see him around the neighborhood on his recumbent bike. He had the flag, the safety flag in the back there because these recumbent bikes are fairly low. They're not really visible on the road. And you go zing by on the road. So there goes the general officer on a bike, flying down to the Creekside Trail for, again, a leisurely 50-mile ride. He would pop in the morning, take care of that, do that on almost a daily basis. He did pass a pretty cool legacy down, though, because Makita is one master mechanic when it comes to bikes. And so it must take a little inspiration by your dad's passion about cycling. But again, just you can get the sense of just vibrancy in the life of Tim Jex. Some people took time to, when I was passing along the news of his illness and then his passing, took time to write me back and make some observations from their relationship. One of his execs just pointed out his humor and leadership. Another one called him a good-hearted and kind person. Fortunate we had the opportunity to serve with him, and he knew firsthand the passion with which he lived and enjoyed life. I can only hope that his family will take comfort in knowing how many people were touched by his life. And another person wrote just the other day, his leadership there and the time in that organization we were all together was a magical time. And while the world changes, things move on, organizations change leadership, it's the goodbyes that are the hardest. And this is a really hard goodbye. Anastasia, I know the past several months were incredibly difficult, but what I witnessed was your truly selfless and loving service and caring for Tim, and the amazing strength and ability to keep moving forward, even as the pandemic made what was harder to just take care of things. But I will never forget just last week, the powerful testament at his bedside about your faith and the strength you derive from that. That was powerful. Tim was so fortunate to have you in his life. And to Makita and Kristen, I know that your acts of kindness and service, large and small, to your dad in the final months, weeks, and days were of great comfort to him and to Anastasia. Thank you for that. Brian Hayes, who we'll hear from momentarily, it's a very special bond. It was a relationship between a military commander and a senior non-commissioned officer that evolved into a deep and lasting bond. Brian, your friendship meant the world to him. It meant the world to him. Janet, we were so blessed to have this time to know him. He had deep, deep respect for you. And I know you appreciate it. In closing, Tim was just a good man, a special man. His faith and sense of service drove him to live life to the fullest. He set an example of kindness and decency, and yes, competition and fun, but in a way that united people. So much that we need. And while his body ultimately failed, his spirit has not. His legacy reverberates in the lives of those whom he's touched during his journey here on earth. So once again, my condolences to his family, his loved ones. Tim, at this farewell, we celebrate your life the way I hope you would want, not hyped, not morose, but with the heartfelt respect, love, and gratitude reserved for only the best amongst us. Farewell, my friend.
I'm glad for those remarks. 2020 has certainly been a year that we'll all remember for one reason or the other. I realized that I'm sitting too close to my brother Mike as I sit up here. I thought, perhaps since I'm surrounded by doctors, that I'd be okay, especially if I'm pregnant. But then I said, given the places that they go, maybe that was a mistake. I'm glad for the remarks you gave. it was great to have a little more understanding. I'll try not to hit this picture. I'm honored to have been asked to speak at this service. If you were to ask me if I knew Tim well, I'm afraid I would have to respond not as well as I would have liked to. I'm afraid I was caught off guard as the rest of you who thought we had so much more time to spend with Tim. As I think back a little, something that is getting harder and harder for me to do, my association with and memories of Tim Jex are the results of interactions we had between Sunday school lessons and priesthood classes, as well as some time we spent together during service projects. For a time, Tim was assigned to our family as a home teacher, where he would share some marvelous lessons on the principles of the gospel. I can truly say that Tim's vast understanding of the gospel and of the scriptures was a motivating force in my own study of both. My purpose in giving this talk is to help provide some form of comfort for those who, like Kathy and I, love Tim. I feel inadequate for the task before me, but I've agreed to try. According to his obituary, Tim had a distinguished 33-year career in the United States Air Force, culminating as a highly decorated brigadier general. Have you seen the picture? Right here. Highly decorated doesn't even begin to describe the 13, yes, I counted them, rows of ribbons on his chest. I had no idea. There's a reason for that. I recall an early interaction with Tim where I commented on an announcement about an upcoming fireside. Tim had been asked to speak at the fireside, and the announcement went on and on about his military background and accomplishments. Tim was embarrassed, declaring the announcement totally inappropriate. I had to calm him down a bit before we could go to our next class. He did not want to be known for his military achievements, especially in a church setting. He was a truly humble servant of the Lord, and that is how he wanted to be remembered. To him, his understanding of and relationship with his Heavenly Father and Savior Jesus Christ were far more important than the ribbons on his chest and the stars on his shoulders. Frankly, he had every right to be proud of his understanding of the gospel. If I were to say that Tim was probably the best Sunday school teacher I've ever had, and if this room were full, I'm sure every head would be nodding in agreement. There were many times while Kathy and I were in Florida that she and I both lamented the fact that we were missing one of Tim's lessons. It was almost heartbreaking when he was called to another position, but then boundaries were changed and life goes on. However, I have to agree with his obituary that with his deep understanding of the gospel, he is best remembered for his gift of teaching. However, there are other things for which he will be remembered. I believe Tim was at every service project this ward ever had while he was here. He was certainly at every one that I was at, and since he had no way of knowing which ones those were going to be, he must have been at every one. Indeed, he was always happy to serve, and he knew how to work. His service brought a lot of joy to a lot of people. We could all learn many lessons from the life of our friend Tim Jex. He was a humble leader, servant, and teacher, and those of us who knew him share with his family the great void we feel at his loss. At this point, I hope you don't mind if I share a personal story of some of my immigrant ancestors. This story has always helped me to understand a little more about this birth we call death, to put it in the words of Paul H. Dunn, a former member of the First Council of the 70. I apologize in advance for any who have heard me tell this story before. While we mourn the passing of Tim Jex, through the grace and mercy of a loving Heavenly Father and Savior Jesus Christ, we have hope that we can see him again. Yet we are sad. We are sad just as the folks in Rotterdam were sad when Jeremiah Hess sailed to America in 1730. As he and his family departed, his loved ones mourned their leaving and yearned to be with him again. They watched and watched as the boat they were on, the Thistle of Glasgow, became smaller and smaller on the horizon until they were gone. Yet, on a distant shore, in a place called Philadelphia, the city of brotherly love, they were met with joy by ones who had gone before. So too it is with us. As we are called to serve the Lord here in what President Nelson and others have called the gathering, we know there are others on the other side of the veil who have been called to gather those who have taken this journey before us. There is absolutely no doubt in my mind that Tim has been called to serve as a teacher in God's kingdom. And lucky those are who will have the opportunity to be taught by Tim. And now I have a very personal message for a member of this congregation who I have never met in person before. I assume you are Kristen, the daughter from Texas. I too have a daughter from Texas. And so Tim and I had the opportunity to talk about our daughters from Texas. Tim was very, very proud of you. Humble leader, teacher, and servant in the Lord's kingdom, that is how I will remember Tim Jex. May the Lord bless you and wrap his loving arms around you this day and always, is my prayer in the name of Jesus Christ.
Good afternoon. Last night, I retreated to the office where I had to once again think about what I was going to say about someone who I called my friend. So in doing so, I looked through my cell phone, looked at messages that we had been texting since 2016 when I left Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, and thought to myself, should I talk about the move of Kristen in Austin to a new apartment, how happy he was in doing that, or just the simple fact that he was doing labor, period? Or was I going to talk about Makita joining the marching band, our conversation about that, or even expand on the number of ping pong championships I've claimed over him? I thought long and hard, but to no avail. I didn't know what to say. And what I should have done first was ask my spouse. And she told me, you already have the words. I wrote my friend a letter on the 17th of June, the day before he passed. So with some slight modifications, I'd like to read that to you all today. A letter to my friend. As I sit here at 10:30 p.m. on the eve of my friend's inevitable demise, I am faced with a challenge that I never thought, nor I wanted to accept, I will be faced with. So many times I reassured myself that things would get better with time, or there was a chance that doctors got it wrong. I wanted to believe for my own selfish reasons. I wanted the opportunity to publicly thank him at my retirement ceremony for believing in me, for his support when multiple senior leaders were clearly targeting me and put me in a position that I'm able to support my family. I am grateful for that. And I wanted the world to know how much that meant to me. Being in the military for almost 15 years, he was the only person that sat me down and genuinely cared about my military career. I want everyone to know and aspire to be that way. A friendship began in 2013 that was rooted in our love of ping pong. For those who do not know, we played a lot of ping pong. maybe longer than we should have, as Tim Sekulich alluded to the point we rescheduled meetings and had to bring a change of clothes because of the sweat. Ping pong was our mental break. It was time that was ours alone to enjoy. No work, no rank, no judgments. A safe place for both of us. Nothing else mattered. As his NCOIC, I was his trusted agent, and he knew and believed that fully. The 7-Eleven Human Performance Wing was filled with so many personalities. It was a constant balancing act. At times, I could tell decisions were weighing on him, but ping pong had one objective, and it never changed. Having that time for clarity and a trusted sounding board was what he needed, and I was happy to be there for him. But as time passed, something changed. I can't put my finger on the specific date or conversation, but we transitioned from a working relationship to a personal one. Nothing was off limits. Our conversations were always respectable and appropriate, but two divorcees with a daughter have much in common, regardless of rank or ethnicity differences. We shared thoughts, ideas, past experiences to aid in this thing called life. We were there for each other. To think that will no longer be is unimaginable, but that's my new reality. My quarterly updates will go unheard. My ping pong supremacy will never be challenged again, and my friend, forever unreachable. To the front office group, I'm proud of us. What we have been able to accomplish in supporting the Jexes over the last 2 months is short of amazing. It takes me back to the many strategic meetings, the planning, the organizing, the executing in support of the boss. To Tim and Janet, our final task has come too soon. However, it represents the love and respect we have for General Jex. Our friend is in a better place. Let's thank God that our departures did not compromise our commitment to each other. Our relationships were not built on superficial positions, but from a genuine appreciation for each other. Although I can't be there with you all, I pray that the memories of his retirement celebration, the potato launcher, or the cookies at Max and Irma's is what we focus on, not this. To the family, Anastasia, Christian, Makita, and all others, I cannot imagine what you guys are feeling at this time. My heart goes out to you. The English language has its limitations. I can write for hours, but I will never say anything that can make the pain go away. I can give you 1,000 examples of how great of a guy he was, but we all know that, and that is why we're here today. What the English language does allow me to do is offer my prayers in my ear whenever you need me. I thank you for the opportunity to speak today, to give my final salute and farewell to my friend, Timothy T. Jex.
I'm honored to be here. It's a privilege to participate in this memorial service for our brother, Timothy Jex. I really appreciated the comments that have been given in a great spirit here, love for Tim and his family. We truly do love you. I do have one regret, and that is I love playing ping pong, but I've never played Tim. So that is a missed opportunity there. But I want to focus on this beautiful word that you used, Tim, to describe Brother Jex, and that is he was a servant leader. What a term that means so much to me, and how he was definitely a leader who served. Anastasia, Nikita, and Kristen, I express to you my deepest condolences during this time of mourning for Tim. We all feel a great loss at his passing. We will remember him fondly, and I am honored that you've asked me to share some of my memories and recollections of him. Where do I begin? When your family arrived in Beaver Creek, Tim and I had a natural connection. Seeing that we were both doctors, doctors love to talk about where they went to medical school and their postgraduate training and all that. I knew Tim was a very accomplished professional, and I could see why he succeeded in his career because of his boundless energy and hard work. I never saw him slow down. Tim loved his family. I remember him always speaking lovingly of his parents, and he was so appreciative to them for the faith that they instilled in him of Jesus Christ. He also loved doing things with his own family. I recall the countless hours that Tim and I would sit at the Career Center as we helped our sons, Makita and Ian, attend the Boy Scout Merit Badge Trail Drive. He loved seeing his children succeed, whether it was in schooling, Boy Scout advancement, or athletic endeavors. I know that Tim was your biggest fan. Now, Makita, I don't know who it was, your dad's idea or yours, to sleep in a hammock at all our camping trips. Whatever it was a cool idea. I wish I had. Other memories I have of Tim were his countless acts of service for others. Here we go, the servant leader. Because he was blessed with an inexhaustible amount of energy, I always saw Tim be the first to raise his hand to accept any assignment to help someone in need in the church or in the community. There was a time when Tim and I were helping a family move, and he would be in and out of the house 3 times carrying furniture to my one trip in and out of the house. He gave of his time to anyone who needed help, and it came from a true desire to follow the example of Jesus Christ. He felt great joy in serving others. Perhaps my greatest memory of Tim was his love of sharing his testimony and knowledge of the gospel of Jesus Christ when he was our Sunday school teacher, and that's been mentioned here many times. His knowledge of religious truth was beautiful and profound. I cannot begin to share with you the many insights I obtained from him. He had a way of clearly communicating truth through personal stories and experiences. And from hearing things today, he had lots of experience. He helped me to come closer to my Father in heaven in Jesus Christ. And I wrote down a few things that he taught me. Maybe you will remember these that he said. He said, in an argument with someone, you can be right or you can be happy. I've used that one a couple of times with my wife. Beware of your actions because seemingly small things have great consequences. If there's no opposition, there is no choice. There's no point. Holding a grudge is like taking poison and hoping to hurt someone else. Faith equals faithfulness, and miracles follow faithfulness in keeping the commandments of God. I will miss my friend Tim and his powerful lessons. He believed deeply in the fact that we all live after death. Although his body has failed him, his spirit still lives. And I feel at this time that he would want us to know this one important truth, that the atonement of Jesus Christ is very real. Through Christ's death on the cross and his resurrection, we will all live again after death. And also, he would like us to know this very important fact regarding the atonement of Jesus Christ. And I would like to read from the Book of Mormon in Alma chapter 7. And this is where it becomes very personal. Alma says, and Jesus shall go forth suffering pains and afflictions and temptations of every kind. And this that the word might be fulfilled, which saith, he will take upon him the pains and the sicknesses of his people. And he will take upon him death, that he may loose the bands of death which bind his people. And he will take upon him their infirmities, that his bowels may be filled with mercy, according to the flesh, that he may know according to the flesh, how to succor his people according to their infirmities. How powerful this statement is, to know that Jesus Christ will take upon himself our infirmities, our weaknesses, our faults, our hurts and feelings of guilt, our sadness, and all injustices. Then he goes on to say, Alma, now the Spirit knoweth all things. Nevertheless, the Spirit of God suffereth according to the flesh, that he might take upon him the sins of his people, that he might blot out their transgressions according to the power of his deliverance. And now behold, this is the testimony which is in me. I too share with you my testimony that God lives, that he loves us, you, me, and Tim. Isaiah taught that God's Son will wipe away all our tears. He is able to do this because he has conquered death, and families can be together forever. May God bless you with his tender mercies as you go forward with your lives. I know that he will strengthen you with greater hope and divine comfort. In the name of Jesus Christ, amen.
Thank you to each, those who spoke, and for the wonderful spirit we felt here. At this time, we'll have two special musical numbers. The first will be Nikita Jacks and Kristen Jacks, accompanied by Nikki Anderson. I Know That My Redeemer Lives. Then after that, Kristen Jacks has a song for us. After the music, we'll have the memory portion of this memorial, at which time, if you feel inclined, you can come up here to the microphone and share memories or thoughts of Tim.
Hello. My dad bought me this guitar when I was like 15 or something. But I never got a chance to really play for him, like face to face as an adult. I think it's because I really just wanted him to think I was cool, and I wasn't confident that like I could impress him with this. Like, sounds like I should have played ping pong. But I really just wanted to play this for him now. And this is "I'll Follow You Into the Dark" by Death Cab for Cutie. It's a song that my dad and I danced to at my wedding 12 years ago. Love mine, someday you will die, and I'll be close behind. Follow you into the dark, blinding light, or tunnels to gates of white. As our hands clasped so tight, for the hint of the spark, and then another side, they both are satisfied. Illuminate the nose on the vacant seaside. There's no one beside you when you're so apart. I'll follow you into the dark. Catholic school, as vicious as Roman roll. I got my knuckles bruised by lady and blood. Held my son, after she told me, son, fear is the heart of love. So I never went back. Heaven and hell beside, they both are satisfied. Illuminate the nights on the vacant seasides. There's no one beside you when your soul's apart. I'll follow you into the dark. You and me, see everything to see. Make up the Calvary. Soul's other shoes, all worn down. Time to see is now. There's nothing to cry about. Hold each other soon in the darkest of days. Heaven and hell beside, but they both are satisfied. Illuminate the night on that vacant seaside. There's no one beside you when your soul departs. I'll follow you into the dark. I'll follow you into the dark.
I did a career speech. I didn't know if I would be even able to talk today. But hearing all of you, how much you love him and how many things you remember him for. I just wanted to tell you that he was a wonderful, loving husband. He knew what needs to be said, what needs to be said. He knew how to support, he knew how to help, he knew how when to hug, he knew when to teach, he was so proud of you, Christy. And I grew to love you even before we met first time. And he was such a good father for Nikita. And I never was invited in those special conversations that they had, and was really jealous of it. But they had those conversations man to man, and I know how much you respected him, and I know how much you looked up to him. And as Christine said, when she met Nikita first, she realizes how much of her father she sees in Nikita. And I'm so grateful to you, Tim, that you imprinted, you made such an imprint in Nikita's life. And I'm so sure that Nikita is going to be a great, great man and an example like you. And I also know how eager he was about being church and how many good things he did to people and how much people loved him. And you all are friends and family in the church, and whoever met that made such a huge change in our life. I joined the church when I just joined the church and met Tim, and I realized that this is something amazing happening in this place, because if he's in this church, then there is something very special about this place. And I never been in military gatherings before. I got married with Tim, and he was a left-wing general, so colonel. And it was terrifying to go to the gathering with hundreds of people, and he was in charge, and I was this first lady who didn't know what to say and how to speak and how to turn. And he was always holding my hand, and he was always giving me good conversations until I felt more comfortable, and then he let me loose, and so I can be who I can be and support him in this little role that I have there. And hearing all the things that you say about Tim is so happy, but so sad, because I realize how many people will miss him. I realize what a huge impact he made on everyone. And honestly, I always told him that he's the best man in the world who I've ever met, and I mean it. I mean it because he brought me the gospel. He taught me. He showed me how to love people, how to forgive people, how to distinguish between serious things and things that you can let go. You can let go. And if I ever had a fight, 5 minutes later I would come back and try to make up, and he would say to me, "It's all good. I don't remember. Nothing happened." He was so forgiving. He was so loving, and he's just an amazing man. So I love him very much, and I always will, for the things that he brought into our lives, for the man he was. And I just wanted to share this with you. Thank you.
Tim was my home teacher. He was the priesthood in my home. He came and he blessed me. He came and he helped me. He tore down fences in my backyard. We sat and talked for hours and hours and hours about things that were heavy on my heart. He taught me how to forgive situations where there isn't anybody else there to argue with or to talk with or work things out. He said the gospel covers all of it and the atonement makes up for everything that would ever happen. I loved him. And just recently, I realized how I loved him. He was an older brother I didn't have. He gave me those hugs that I didn't get. He told me that I was a good person and that someday I would be an excellent eternal wife. And I loved him for those things. He shared his family with me. He shared his concerns over things. And he always asked me how I was. What can I do for you? What can I do for you? Can I come over? Can I help you? Can I do this? Can I do that? No, I just need you to pray for me, that's all. And he did. But he taught me, the biggest thing he taught me was how to forgive. And so my heart was lightened. My heart was turned toward my Heavenly Father. And I was able to commune with him better because I could feel it better. I am very grateful for him. I know he was not a Superman, although he did many, many good things. But I know that God's happy to have him back home and that he will be able to help others also.
First, I want to tell you, I hate funerals. They just leave me so drained and with a massive headache. But my relationship, my relationship is much different than many of yours. He was my baby brother. And I told the kids the other night, we were reminiscing a little bit, and I said, I cried when my dad told me I had a brother and not a sister. I already had a brother. No offense, Doug, not that you weren't a great one, but I wanted a sister, not a brother. But Heavenly Father knew what he was doing because I loved him so much. And he had two mothers, my mom and me. So I taught him how to tie his shoes. I taught him how to read. I taught him how to add. I taught him pretty much everything he knows of use. Some people learned it in kindergarten. He learned it from me. And we've had great adventures together. We have climbed tall mountains. We have whitewatered in rafts. We were supposed to do more of that, but not gonna happen now. We have canoed and kayaked down rivers in Florida. We paddled our canoe into the bushes and capsized. Thankfully, the food was on his kayak and not in our canoe. He was so helpful to us. I have a son-in-law that's an Air Force JAG. His first assignment was Hurlburt Field in Florida. And that's where Tim was as a colonel. And you can't imagine how helpful as a new JAG captain it is to have an uncle that's a colonel. And when they had problems with their rental house, Tim's first wife, Gia, took their little family into their house and they stayed with them. And I think my granddaughter, Kennedy, thinks Gia is her grandma too. She just loved her and she was so sweet to my kids. And we love Kristen. My favorite memory of Kristen is we have a condo at Snowbird and they came up and some of my kids were up there too. And a lot of them rented these digglers, is that what they're called, Morgan? Anyways, they're like scooters. And you took them on the tram and rode them to the top of the mountain. And you rode them down the winding dirt roads. And they had done it once without too many injuries. I had a pregnant daughter, so I wisely decided just to sit this one out. But they decided to do it again, and they were all exhausted, but most of all, Kristen. And she got to the bottom of the mountain, and she didn't have the strength to hold down the brakes and stop her scooter, and she just had a terrible crash. And there was a guy at the at the bottom, and he says to Kristen, "Oh my, do you need a doctor? Do you need me to get the doctor?" She said, "No, my dad's a doctor." And he just got this look like, "Well, where is he that he let you do that?" So he was a wonderful brother. I love him very much. And it's just hard to imagine as his big sister, he went before me. He wasn't supposed to do that. So I'm gonna have a word with him, but my husband said they needed him in heaven because my mom would only listen to him. And that is the truth. Love you, Tim. Miss you.
Anyone else? Thank you for those who shared memories of Tim, for those of you viewing online. Although Tim's illness took him quickly, I had an opportunity to meet with him several times to talk in my capacity as his bishop. During those conversations, it was clear that his great faith sustained him. He was not afraid of the end. He wasn't thrilled the way things worked out, but he was steadfast in his knowledge that God was in charge. On one particular occasion, I shared a quote from Joseph Smith that deals with persecution and affliction in this life. Quote, "Those who cannot endure persecution and stand in the days of affliction cannot stand in the day when the Son of God shall burst the veil and appear in all the glory of his Father with all the holy angels." End quote. Tim understood and accepted that affliction, although not a lot of fun, is part of this life. From Doctrine and Covenants 122, verse 8, the Son of Man hath descended below them all. Art thou greater than he? It's okay to mourn. Mourning is one of the deepest expressions of pure love. Our prophet, Russell M. Nelson, has said, quote, "We can't fully appreciate joyful reunions later, without tearful separations now." End quote. But we should know that we are not alone at this time of sorrow. From John 14, we know the Lord has promised, "I will not leave you comfortless, I will come to you." And we can feel peace beyond our sorrow and know that we are children of God to whom we will return. From Romans 8, the Spirit itself beareth witness with our spirit that we are children of God. And if children, then heirs, heirs of God, and joint heirs with Christ. If it so be that we suffer with him, then we may be also glorified together. For I reckon that the sufferings of this present time are not worthy to be compared with the glory which shall be revealed in us. You and I can take comfort in the plan of salvation, or as it's also known, the plan of happiness. This is God's plan for us, his children, and is centered on the atonement of his Son, Jesus Christ. You and I left the presence of our Heavenly Father and experienced the joys and trials of this life. We use our agency, that is our free will, to try and make good choices and do the best we can in order that we may return to live in his presence. Our Savior loves us. He knows our pains, and he knows our struggles. He knows our strengths and our weaknesses. Most of all, he knows our hearts. In closing, again from Romans, neither death nor life, nor things present nor things to come, shall be able to separate us from the love of God, which is in Jesus Christ our Lord. We can all take comfort that Tim is at peace. In the sacred name of Jesus Christ, amen. Our closing hymn will be hymn 152, God Be With You Till We Meet Again. And our closing prayer will be offered by Janet Hand, Tim's sister.
Father in heaven, we're thankful for thy spirit that we have felt here this day to bless and comfort us. We're thankful for our beloved husband, father, brother, and friend, Tim, and for the good influence he has had in our lives, and pray that we will always remember that and try to follow his good example in the way we live our lives. We're thankful for the opportunity we've had to know him and to have him bless our lives. We ask thee that we might continue to have thy spirit with us to bless and comfort us in the coming difficult days, especially be with his wife Anastasia and his children Nikita and Gia, that they might be guided and inspired to make those choices that will be right for them in moving ahead and living a life without him, to help and guide them. We are so thankful for our Savior and his atonement and his gospel and the knowledge that it gives us that we will all be together again and enjoy one another's company. We are once again thankful for the wonderful spirit of comfort that has been here this day, and we say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.